Good Monday morning on the West Coast and afternoon on the East Coast. Welcome back to Mindset Mondays. I am your host, Garrett Bake, in conjunction with Contractor Plus. We're excited that you're here joining us. If you are here live, go ahead and drop your name, your business name, your location in the chat so that we can shout you out. We got William, number one on the board this morning, says, love this. We got Chad. Happy Monday, everyone. We were not with you last Monday. It was Memorial Day, and hopefully you were spending time with your family, with your loved ones, and obviously a little bit of time remembering those who sacrificed all for us. We had the opportunity to stop by a cemetery. Every year I stop by a cemetery and pay my respects for those who have sacrificed for this country. And we drove into this particular cemetery, and it was really cool because a random gentleman in a kilt, the full getup, was playing his bagpipe at the entrance, and it gave me chills. It was really cool. So that was really cool to see. And it's really interesting. You go back, if you've never had this opportunity, I highly recommend it. Go to a cemetery and walk through and start reading some of the headstones, especially during Veterans Day, Memorial Day. Read some of the headstones and learn about some of the folks who were involved in this great country and helping it become what it is that it is today. It'll change your life. Ryan from Orlando, welcome to the show. Jaime Castillo, CST Construction, Richmond, Virginia, welcome to the show. We've also got, William finally threw his name down there. We got Restoration and Mold Damage Remediation. That is a mouthful. Little Rock, Arkansas. Welcome, welcome, welcome. I want to share with you guys some numbers, and then I'm going to tell you a story behind these numbers. 1.2 million, 500,000, 5.6 million, 250,000, and 17 million. Now, these may seem like random numbers to you, but they're not random to me. And here's why. Each one of those numbers has a story behind them. And the story has more to do with the failure of the company than the success of the company. Now, let me explain what it is that I mean by that. Let's take the $17 million company. $17 million a year this plumbing company was doing. $17 million a year. And within 12 months, bankrupt, no longer in business. The $5.6 million a year company, Outdoorscape, concrete, patios, backyards, within 18 months out of business. The $500,000 a year company, electrician, within 3 months out of business. The $1.2 million a year company, Finish Carpenter, within 9 months out of business. Now, why am I telling you this? Yes, it is Monday, and no, I don't want to scare you. And no, I don't want you to constantly think that you're going to fail. But what I do want you to do is pay attention to what's happening. Okay? Each of these companies didn't pay attention to what was really happening. Did they have revenue? Sure. Yeah, they had money coming in the door. I mean, anywhere from $500K a year to 17 million. That's a substantial amount of money. The problem is that they weren't set up in a way that would sustain the growth that they'd experienced. Now, what do I mean by that? Well, I'll give you a perfect example. Okay. Let's start with a big dog, 17 million a year. You're like, how do you fail at 17 million a year? Well, I'll tell you how it is that you failed. 17 million a year, plumbing company, right? They were in the service industry. Most of their work was service related. Now, they had built a very specific niche in that they worked with a lot of national brands. Starbucks, Applebee's, so on and so forth. And this company did service work for them. Okay. Now, what was unique about this company? Well, nothing. They just happened to be service work plumbers. The issue that they ran into was that they got fat, dumb, and happy, content, if you will, with the amount of work that they had and who it is that they were doing the work for. These guys will never fire us. These guys will never go out of business. These guys will never cut our pay. That is until somebody else came in and took their work. They took their work. One contract year to the next, gone. 90% of their business gone within 30 days. 90%. They couldn't survive after that. They had 35 different employees, laid them all off. And they tried to scratch and claw their way and make it happen. And eventually it was too much. Gone. The $1.2 million a year business. Similar story. Actually, let's go to the $5.6 million plumbing company. $5.6 million plumbing company. They actually didn't focus much on service work at all. They did custom high-end work and they did commercial work. Things were fat, dumb, and happy again. These guys were rolling in the $1 million contracts, right? Super excited about life. I think they had 13 employees. I mean, life was good. That is until it wasn't. They hired a full-time salesman. And during the course of this full-time salesman's time at the company, he sold a grand total of, wait for it, $0. $0. And the owner gave ownership of sales over to this guy. $0. Not in 90 days, not in 120 days, but in 150 days. For those of you that don't do math very well, that's 5 months. 5 months of no sales. So yeah, you're doing 5.6 million. You land $1 million contract here, a $750,000 contract there. That's great. Until you don't have any more contracts. And then what? And for those of you that work in the commercial space, you know these contracts don't come up every day. And you know it takes a while to close them. And then it takes 30, 45, 60 days to get paid. Out of business. Right? Now, I'm telling you this because I want you to understand something. Whether you're just starting out or you're in the range of the 500, 700, 1 million, 5 million, it doesn't matter. It doesn't matter where you are. Eventually, it'll catch up to you. You can't scale inefficiencies. You can't grow something that's broken. And that's what ended up happening with these companies. So I want you guys to take a look at your business real quick and tell me something. Right now, if you were forced to hand over the keys, couldn't work in the business for 30 days, no phone calls, emails, text messages, driving on job sites, communicating with employees, nothing, 30 days. What would happen to your business? What would happen to your business legitimately? How many of you guys would still be in business? And I'd love to hear from you guys in the chat. If you'd still be in business, be honest, you'd still be in business, go ahead and drop that in there. Still in business. If you wouldn't, and you're honest enough with yourself, write that down. Wouldn't be in business. Ryan, appreciate the honesty. Collapse. Now, I wanted to tell you guys this because I want you to understand something. As you continue to grow your business, the most important thing you will ever do for your business is create a business that doesn't depend on you. Now, I know I just took out a needle and I popped your bubble. Your ego just went and shrunk, right? Because you're like, but this is my business. This is who I am. This is what I do. Yeah, and that's the problem. The problem is that everything in your business depends on you. Everything. And if everything in your business depends on you, that means you don't have a business. You have a job. You have a job. Because if you don't show up, it doesn't happen. Whether it's marketing or sales, whether it's running your jobs, getting your books done on the back end, doesn't matter. William says, no way I could do that. Yep. Michael says, be gone. I'm in the field, in the office, even the janitor when I need to be. Yep. Think about this, okay? Your goal in life is not to show up, work, and then go home. That's not your goal in life. You became an entrepreneur, i.e. a business owner, for a reason. And that was so the business could create the freedom that you want to live the lifestyle that you want to live. But if your business depends on you, shame on you. Shame on you. Because the people that are suffering right now are your family. Your family's suffering. Ultimately, you're suffering. Because you're not chasing dollars. Like, get that out of your head. Do we want you to be profitable? Yes. Do we want you to make money? Yes. Do we want you to have a big business? Yes. But at the end of the day, I would rather you be able to go down to Cancun for 3 weeks, hang out with your wife on the beach, gain 25 pounds from the all-you-can-eat buffets, than I would you tell me about the fact that you're completely worn out and tired. You're on the verge of divorce because you and your wife don't have a relationship anymore. Your son hates you because you haven't been to baseball practice in 3 weeks. Like, I would much rather have you tell me that you're happy and you're spending time with those you love, doing the things that you love to do, than making money all day, every day. There's a gentleman I work with here locally. Name's Tyler. Tyler does some outside landscaping, right? Some new construction landscaping, some installs. And last week we were supposed to have a meeting together, and Tyler's like, I won't be there. I'm like, are you going to be on the job? He's like, no, I'm actually going to be at the lake. And I was like, right on, fist bump, right? He spent an entire week at the lake with his family. Now, did he still have to go down to the valley and work? Yeah, he did. But he also got to spend time with his family at the lake, building what really matters. And those, my friends, are memories. Now, that's great, right? You guys understand? All right, I need to work myself out of my business. Okay, so what's the first thing I'm going to do? I'm going to hire office manager. No, wait, that's a project manager. Actually, I need a sales guy. No, wait, maybe that was an accountant. And then nothing ends up happening. Why? Because you don't know what to do. You know you need to work yourself out of your job, but how is it that you do it? I was talking to Tim, who's one of my friends. Tim runs a company here locally. They started his rain gutter company. Now they do exterior work. Tim does about $17 million a year. Tim's on a flight right now to Cleveland. Now, I'm not a big fan of Cleveland, but he's actually there going to a marketing conference. Tim spends 1 day a month in the office. 1 day a month. Now, he works on his business from the house. He never goes to a job site. 1 day a month in the office. This last month, Tim went to Alaska on a cruise with his family. And then he went to Africa with some friends on a safari. Let that sink in. That's the kind of business you want. Again, the business that supports the lifestyle that you want. So where is it that you should start? There's a book. Now, if you're a reader, I recommend reading it, but I'll give you the Reader's Digest version. There's a book written by a gentleman called Eli Goldratt. Yes, I know it's a funny name. Everybody makes fun of it, right? But he wrote a book that was called The Goal. Now, this book is not about construction work at all. Not in the least bit. In fact, it's about manufacturing. Boring, right? But he wrote this in the 80s, and this book is a very powerful book because it talks about this particular, he tells a story, by the way, so it wasn't like a, hey, do this, if that, and this, and the boring stuff nobody likes. He actually wrote it as a story. It was a novel, and it was talking about a plant manager, and this plant manager had 90 days to turn this plant around to make it profitable. Otherwise, the plant was going to shut down. He was going to be out of work. 90 days, right? Now, the plant was producing at the level it needed to produce, but it wasn't producing profitably enough. Okay. So he went through, long story short, and figured out that there were 2 points in this business that were causing delays and increased costs. 2. He labeled them as choke points. I want you to think of the garden hose we all have, right? You're watering the lawn, or you're watering the driveway, or you're watering your car, right? We're doing one of the three. But a garden hose. Now, what's the worst thing about a garden hose? It's when you try and unwind that garden hose, and what does it have in it? It's got kinks. And so either you get a little dribble of water or you get the crazy spray, right? Everybody hates the kinks in the hose. So what do you have to do to get the kinks out of the hose? Well, you have to go find the kinks, then you have to straighten out the hose and you get rid of the kinks, right? Figuring out the choke points in your business is what actually helps your business grow. Again, I don't care how much water you're putting through that hose. If it's got a kink in it, you're not going to be able to push more water through it. Doesn't matter what the pressure looks like, right? That choke point is going to restrict the growth of the business. So what I want you to think about right now, and I actually want to hear in the comments, what is the biggest choke point in your business? Now, as you're writing, I'm going to add a little more clarity to this. Choke point, again, the thing that's restricting the growth of the business. Now, I don't want you to take the easy way and say, me, I am the choke point. For a lot of you, that's going to be the truth, and we know that. But I want you to think a little bit deeper, right? So what is it about you that's making you the choke point? Is it the fact that you're still on the job site and you shouldn't be there? Is it the fact that you're still the one who's doing all of the sales presentations? Is it the fact that you're still late at night putting invoices together or early in the morning trying to get your books balanced? What is the choke point inside of your business? So write it in the comments. Again, this may or may not be you, but you can't pick a person. I want you to think about the business and what inside of the business is your choke point. Last week, I was speaking with a roofer out of Pennsylvania, and we were talking about this very same topic. Yes, he identified himself as the choke point first, but I said, what's the real choke point? And the real choke point was that he was still on the job site. And I was like, okay, cool. That's a starting point. Now, with that starting point, you can go a little deeper. Now, what we did with him was really simple, right? We said, Keith, why are you still the choke point? Why are you still on the job site? We identified two things. The first one, there's a very particular tool that's used to crimp metal, right? To bend metal, to make it into a certain shape so that it can go on a roof. Well, it's a very heavy, bulky tool. And guess what? He's the one carrying the tool in his truck. So he's got his guys on the job site. He goes and tries to do other things, bids, office work, whatever it is. When they need the tool, who do they call? Dun, 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 dun. Let's call the savior. Let's call Superman. Hey, Keith, can you bring the tool so we can use the tool? And he jumps in his truck and he drives down to the job site and he has the tool, right? Sounds great on paper, right? But who the hell wants that? Who the hell wants that? Right? At the end of the day, that's not what you want. You don't want to be the guy when you get home and your wife's like, hey, how was your day? You're like, man, it was so busy today. And then she follows that up with, oh yeah, what did you do? And you can't think of anything productive to say because you were busy, but you weren't productive. That's not my definition of a good day. And it shouldn't be yours either. Right? So that was the first one. The second one was the type of work that they were doing. Now, there was some specialty work that they were doing, some fascia, some different things that they were doing that needed a specialty roofer, right? Somebody who had experience doing this other craft other than just laying shingles. Well, the guys that he had weren't capable of doing that. And guess what? He was. So he kept having to go back out on the job site to do this specialty work. So we looked at these two and say, okay, how do we solve this problem? How do we solve this choke point? Well, the easiest was give the tool that's in the back of your truck to your guys and make them take it. Oh, but they're going to complain about it. Who cares? You're paying them. Figure it out. Okay. Number one. Then number two, hire another crew, a crew who could handle the specialty work that you're currently doing. That's it. And so his only goal for the next 2 weeks is to get those two things done. That's it. But that's going to alleviate anywhere from 8 to 10 hours a week for him that he can now spend on growing the business. 8 to 10 hours a week, right? All right, let's look at some of the comments. We got Joe. Thanks a lot, brother. Could you please keep me signed up? Yeah, I'll keep you signed up. I'm not in charge of that, but I'll make sure the right people know that. We got Michael, letting go of control to someone to trust them to do the things the way I do them. Okay, all right. Now, Michael, my challenge for you is to get more specific, right? Letting go of control to someone to do what? I get the trust factor, but to do what? Is it to do the work in the field? Is it to do sales for you? Is it to run your back office? Like what's the thing that we're talking about there? Charlie B says, just starting my company, but I've been working for my dad since I was 16. I'm 25. I need more work in general. Do not know which lead company to trust. Well, a little off topic here, Charlie, but I'll answer for you real quick. Don't trust any of them. You don't need them. I don't know what your work is, but if you want to drop your work, I'll tell you exactly what you need to do. But no, you don't need to go hire a lead company. Jonathan says, in my case, it's trusting a project manager. Love it, Jonathan. That's a big hire right there. Getting off the job site, right? Hiring a project manager. So how do we trust a project manager? Well, you don't. Sounds a little counterintuitive. Stay with me. You don't trust a project manager, just like you don't trust a laborer, just like you don't trust your office staff. You don't trust anybody, okay? You trust, but you verify. You can't blindly trust anyone. When I was working as a police officer, one of the things that I was assigned to do was be on the SWAT team, right? Now, being on the SWAT team looks really cool. Trust me, but it was a lot of freaking work. And it was work because we did things and then we did them again and then we did them again and then we redid them again and again and again until we got really good at that. But even inside of that, there was always a verification factor. So when we go search a residence, finding a bad guy or, looking for drugs or whatever the thing was, we were all assigned a certain area, whether that was the kitchen, the dining room, the living room, the basement, whatever it was. And you were assigned that area and that was your area. And so we'd either, look for the person in that area, or we would be looking for, paraphernalia or drugs or whatever the thing was in this particular area. Well, when we were done, we would always do something called a double check. And all a double check meant was you would find somebody to partner up with, and then you would go search their area while they searched your area. Now, it wasn't that nobody trusted you or didn't think that you could do it that way. The fact is we're all humans and we all miss things from time to time. But with a double check, what's the likelihood of you missing something? Not very high, right? Because you're doubling up who's checking, who's looking, who's searching, whatever the thing is. Now, imagine if you applied that same concept to your contracting business, whether you're building fences, putting concrete on driveways, throwing roofs up, whatever the thing is. That is how you get out of a position. Never truly get out of it. Remember, I talked about that plumbing company that was doing 5.6 and then went to 0. You trust, but you verify. So how do we do that? Well, here's step 1. Figure out your way. Whatever your way is of doing things. Michael, I'll get to you here in a second, but Michael says he builds fence a specific way. That's awesome. But what is that way? And if you don't know that way, how do you expect somebody else to know that way? Right? So number 1 is, what is your way? Number 2 is document it. Everything from gassing up the truck in the morning to making sure the fluids are where they need to be, to making sure the lights work and the brakes work and whatever, so on and so forth with your vehicle. Okay. Now, what about the jobs for the day? How are you making sure that you have your supplies for the jobs for the day? Well, there's a very specific process you're going through. Where am I going today? What are the supplies that I need? Do I need to stop by the store and pick anything up? Do I need to call the supply house to drop them off? Or are they already on site? When I get on site, what's the process that I go through? Well, number 1 is I make sure that I have the manpower that I need. Number 2 is I make sure that I have the material that I need. Number 3 is I make sure that the area that I'm going to be working on is clear, right? And we just go on down the list. And so what you're creating now is a process for doing the thing that you do every single day. I get it. There's some differences and there's some times when it'll apply or won't apply. But your job is to make sure that it's all written out there. Michael says, so need to write an SOP, correct? Yes, 100%, Michael. SOP, for those of you that don't know what SOP means, SOP is standard operating procedure. How do we do the thing the same every single time? I'm going to be the one that's going to pop another one of your bubbles. Business at a certain level becomes boring. Boring. We take the excitement out of it, but we do it on purpose. When you're starting out, everything's fun and exciting. Oh, I get to travel over here and next I get to go over there. That's awesome. Oh man, like I ripped the shingles off of this roof and this stuff is all rotted and I get to replace it. That's cool, right? But after a while, you get tired of everything being different. You get tired of bouncing around from here to there. You get tired of juggling things, right? And eventually you figured out that it's smarter to do things the same every single time. Because if there is a problem, you'll be able to identify it quickly and fix it, address it, deal with it. Employees, by the way, are no different. This morning, I was on the phone with one of my clients and we were talking through this. And they have a front office manager. This front office manager was leaving holes and gaps in the schedule. And that's a problem, right? Because time is money. And you have a sales guy out there selling. If he's got holes in his schedule, he's not selling. So the first thing I ask, of course, is what's the process? Well, what I do is A, B, C, D. That's great. What's the process? Because you're not doing it right now. Someone else is. And they're obviously not doing it right. And so with every employee, there's a process. When it comes to disciplining an employee, there's a process. When it comes to hiring an employee, there's a process. When it comes to training an employee, there's a process. So yes, everything is a process. Now, the reason I wanted you to identify the biggest choke point in your business is because that's where you're going to start. Eventually, your business will be processes. But right now, start with the biggest choke point. Okay? Charlie came back and says, sound good. I am a general contractor, residential, commercial. I have a decent flow of work via my dad, but I want to develop my own. Awesome. So you got two angles there, residential and commercial. They're two different angles. But this is what you need to do, okay? Where does your dad get his jobs from? Right now, looks like he's subbing them out to you, or he's, throwing you a couple bones. That's great. But where are your jobs coming from right now? Because the game, Charlie, is relationships. That's what the game is. So if you want more commercial jobs, you need to go figure out, okay, where are the people getting commercial jobs from? Word of mouth. Well, that's because he built a great reputation, Charlie. That's awesome. But we don't all have that luxury, especially not starting out. So you got to go and say, okay, so where are people getting jobs from? Let's just stick to residential. Okay. If I'm a general contractor and I'm doing remodels, repairs, or new builds at homes, where can I go to find some of these jobs? By the way, without hiring a lead company or spending dollars. Here's my recommendation. Super simple. Go to the people who already have access to the people you want to work with. Let me repeat that. Go to the people who already have access to the people that you want to work with. Who are those people? Well, I'll give you a list. Number one, architects. What do architects do? Well, that's right. They design houses. So they have clients. They have people who want to build houses. And really good people go to architects before they go to builders. So if you can build relationships with architects, the right architects, then they're going to send their work over to you. Designers. Guess what? Designers work with people who are designing homes as well. The biggest one, though, is going to be real estate agents, especially right now in today's economy where things are unrealistic when it comes to pricing. Interest rates through the roof, affordability down. So people aren't moving. What are they doing? They're remodeling. Cool. And if they're not moving, or even if they are moving, who are they going to use? Somebody they trust, which is normally their real estate agent. So if you can make friends with the right real estate agents who either work with investors or they work with homeowners, so on and so forth, odds are you're going to get some work. Now, I tell you that because we've worked with dozens of GCs and remodelers and taught them the very same principles. Again, we can do the same thing with what you're doing right now. What's the process? Well, the process is every single week, I'm going to meet with 5 new landscapers, or 5 new architects and 5 new designers and 5 new real estate agents every single week and build my book of business that way. That's the game, right? So back to topic. How do we free ourselves from our business? It ain't by working more hours, right? You want to take a 30-day vacation? You need a business that can run without you. How do we create a business that can run without you? We create a business, the foundation around processes and systems. We do the same thing every single time. Why? Because that increases the likelihood of success. Here's who we market to. Here's how we market to them. Here's what we do when a lead comes in prior to us going to an appointment or an estimate or whatever it is that you call it. Here's what we do during the presentation. Here's what our follow-up process looks like after. When we get a job, here's what we do prior to the job. Here's what we do during the job. Here's what we do after the job. When it comes to billing, when it comes to invoicing, when it comes to whatever it is, everything in your business needs to have a process. You want to be free. That is what will set you free. So my challenge to you today, this week, is pick one thing, just one little thing. What is my process for whatever? And if you don't know which thing, figure out where it is you're spending, or I should say wasting, the most amount of time in your day. And work on that first. Trust me, step by step, little by little, you'll set yourself free. Now, little asterisk here. If you're not using Contractor Plus to its fullest abilities, you're missing out. We talk about structure. We talk about organization. We talk about doing the same thing every single time. You're going to have to use something to help you do the same thing every single time. And Contractor Plus is that tool. If you're not sure on how to use it, you can reach out. You can schedule a demo. You could schedule a conversation to learn more about the estimating process or the follow-up process, or how to put your leads and your estimates inside of there, how to create contracts. All of these things can be done inside of Contractor Plus to help make your job easier. All right, that's all I got for you guys. Have a beautiful Monday, the rest of your week, but make sure that you're making progress and growth in your business so that you can finally set yourself free and create that lifestyle that you're after. All right, you know what time it is.